It's 2022. For 2 decades, Google ruled the internet just like an empire. But then, out of nowhere, a tiny startup called OpenAI releases a model called ChatGPT 3.5. That single chatbot spreads faster than any technology in history, hitting 1 million users in just 5 days. Suddenly, ChatGPT started eating Google's search engine business. Within months, it becomes external threat to $2 trillion tech giant Google. Inside Google, alarms went off. CEO Sundar Pichai declares the code red. After months of work, Google launches their chatbot Googlebot. But that launch turned into one of the biggest disasters. It was so bad that even Google's own employees criticized it. When bot incorrectly answered about James Webb Telescope, Google's reputation took a hard hit. As a result, Google's parent company Alphabet lost $100 billion valuation in just one single day. But here is the twist. This wasn't end. Google never gave up. This is the story of how a fallen giant woke up, crushed the competition, reclaimed its title as an AI leader. In 2017, 8 Google employees released a paper called Attention All You Need. They introduced something called Transformer. It's the most advanced version of the generative AI. Generative AI is the type of artificial intelligence that can create new things. It can write stories, solve doubts, explain homework, make jokes, and help you to write code. In short, it behaves like a smart digital assistant which understands what you asked and creates something new in response. But how does generative AI really works? First, it learns from massive amount of text from various sources like books, websites, articles, various conversations from the Reddit, and learn code from the GitHub and Stack Overflow. Just imagine like this. You're giving whole internet access to a supercomputer and telling it learn everything from the internet. Understand how humans talk and their patterns of the conversation. And after that supercomputer learns everything, it becomes extremely good at understanding what you're asking, and it will give response just like a natural human way. That's why when you ask a question, it will respond smoothly just like a real human. Models like ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, all of them are generative AI models. They all work on same principle. Learn from lots of text, understand languages, and generate new answers. But here is the twist. The core technology behind all these generative AI models originally developed by Google in 2017. So the biggest question is, if Google invented the tech, why don't they created the ChatGPT kind of chatbot first? Because Google stuck in a psychological trap called the Innovator's dilemma. Google's business model works like this. When you search on Google, you see ads. Various companies pay Google to display these ads to you. But when an AI chatbot gives direct answer, the user already have the answer. They don't click on the ads. Because of that, for Google, launching an AI chatbot is like killing its own business. That's why Google never launched the chatbot first. Then OpenAI comes into picture in November 2022 by launching ChatGPT 3.5. There were no ads, no links, just one clean text box. When you ask it something, it will give you a direct answer. And people never seen such kind of chatbot in their whole life. Within days, millions of people started using it, and internet changed it forever. Students, office workers, developers, even people who never touched the AI all started using ChatGPT. As a result, Google searches began to drop sharply. That's when Google entered into panic mode. Internally, they announced something called Code Red. Code Red means all employees in Google stop working on side projects and focus on one single mission: build Google's AI chatbot to protect its business. Months after intense work, finally Google announces their own chatbot, the Googlebot. But it was one of the biggest disaster. In fact, during Google's live demo event, when Sundar Pichai asked the bot about James Telescope, it given a wrong answer. That one mistake was enough. Within hours, Google's reputation took a hit, and in a single day, Google's parent company, Alphabet, lost nearly $100 billion in market capitalization. On the other side, ChatGPT was rapidly eating Google's search engine business. Behind it, other AI chatbots like Claude, Grok, were also gaining attention and competing for the same space. Month after month, pressure keeps building on Google. Then in December 2023, Google finally announces Gemini, their next generation AI chatbot. Gemini was completely different from Bard. By default, it was a multi-modal. It could understand text, images, audio, video, even code at the same time. Gemini was built on the top of Google's deepest strengths like search data, YouTube, Maps, Gmail, decades of research. Google did not fight with the ChatGPT with a single app. Instead, they integrated their greatest products in Gemini, like Google Search, Gmail, Docs, Sheets. Their strategy was simple. Don't replace search. Upgrade it with AI. In fact, with its most recent model of the Gemini was so fast, more compatible, and built for serious reasoning. It could handle massive context, understand text, image, video all at the same time, and it answers such a way we will feel like we are chatting with real human. In fact, after Google released their latest version of Gemini 3, alarms went off in OpenAI. Sam Altman instantly declared code red in OpenAI to make the ChatGPT better than Google. But here is the problem. It's incredibly hard for OpenAI to beat the Google because running AI is not running a small website. A single Google search can cost a less than penny, but one AI chatbot's response can cost hundreds, sometimes even thousands of times than penny. Because every time you ask a question to an AI, millions, sometimes billions of mathematical calculations happens instantly in background. That requires massive GPU clusters, massive electricity, and massive cooling system which should run 24/7. Most importantly, the smarter the AI model we build, more expensive it becomes to operate. Bigger models don't just scale intelligence, they scale the cost. AI is not just a software. It is a money-burning machine. If we see the OpenAI, they don't have any their own data centers. OpenAI heavily depends on Microsoft's cloud Azure. Every ChatGPT's response runs on Microsoft Cloud. Because of that, OpenAI computing limit is limited. But when it comes to Google, it does not have these problems. Google owns its own data centers. And other biggest problem of OpenAI is chips. OpenAI heavily relies on NVIDIA's GPUs. But Google, it built its own chips. They are called tensor processing units. This is the massive advantage Google have. They could train their AI models at cheaper cost, and they could deploy it faster, and they could control the entire supply chain, and they could avoid the shortages when NVIDIA GPUs run out. But OpenAI cannot do this. Over time, this will become dominating advantage for the Google. People think AI race is about intelligence, but at the deepest level, it is about infrastructure. Google quietly built its own infrastructure. Their custom chips, custom data centers, custom networking, custom cooling systems. OpenAI relies on Microsoft and NVIDIA for all of this. Even OpenAI releases a better model than Google today. Google have the mass advantage of the infrastructure. Google can run their models at cheaper, faster, and more efficient way, and they can easily overcome the OpenAI. Now let's talk about the Google's biggest superpower. Not AI, not chips, not research. The users. They have billions of users. Here is the simple truth about the tech. A slightly worse product with the billions of users can easily beat the best product with less users. Think about it. WhatsApp is not most advanced messaging app, but billions of users uses it. Instagram wasn't the best photo app, but it had the most people. Android was not the most polished OS, but it reached the whole world. And Google understood this better than anyone. Even OpenAI built a smarter model than Gemini. Google still have something that OpenAI doesn't have. The ability to put Google's AI in billions of phones instantly because they own Android. OpenAI has only ChatGPT. It will run on the website as well in the app, but Google has the entire ecosystem. The billions of users uses the Google products every day. If Google started putting their Gemini in 3 billion Android phones, that will be greatest disaster for OpenAI. So like that, if Google put Gemini in the all Android phones, people by default uses. And most importantly, with the Gemini, we have the integration with the Gmail, Docs, in every Google product. But if you use the ChatGPT, we don't have those access. So why do people use ChatGPT? They by default use the Gemini, right? So that's how Google can easily overcome the OpenAI. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section.